The divide between baby boomers and Generation Z is undeniable, especially when it comes to understanding economic realities and career challenges. While Gen Z struggles to navigate a broken job market, skyrocketing housing prices, and crushing student debt, boomers often seem indifferent, offering outdated advice that doesn't address today's challenges. Why does this disconnect exist? And why do so many boomers seem apathetic to the struggles of younger generations? Let's break it down. Boomers came of age during an economic boom. Job opportunities were heavily increased, college tuition was affordable, and housing was accessible. In the 1970s, a median-priced home cost around $23,000, roughly 3 times the average annual income. Compare that to today, where the median home price is over $400,000, which is around 8 times the average income, while also having wages that have barely kept pace with inflation. For boomers, achieving financial stability often required hard work and determination, but it was attainable. For Gen Z, the same effort rarely yields the same results. Today, the average Gen Z college graduate enters the workforce with over $30,000 in student debt. Despite higher levels of education, wages remain stagnant, and the cost of living has skyrocketed. Entry-level jobs often demand years of experience, leaving many Gen Z workers underemployed or stuck in the gig economy. This stark contrast means that boomers simply don't relate to the financial struggles of Gen Z. Their advice, like just work harder or save your money, fails to account for the systemic challenges that didn't exist during their time. For boomers, the job market was straightforward. Many entered the workforce with minimal education, secured stable jobs with pensions, and worked their way up the ladder. Networking meant shaking hands, and interviews were conducted face-to-face. The modern job market is far more complex. Today, applicants must navigate applicant tracking systems that often reject resumes before they're even seen by a human. Entry-level jobs frequently require advanced degrees and years of experience, making it harder for recent graduates to get their foot in the door. Platforms like LinkedIn and Indeed, while promising networking opportunities, often feel like dead ends. Many Gen Z workers report applying to hundreds of jobs without even receiving a response, far different from the direct hiring practices boomers experienced. For boomers, homeownership was a cornerstone of the American dream. Low interest rates, affordable housing, and less competition made it relatively easy to buy a home and build equity. Gen Z faces an entirely different reality. Housing prices have skyrocketed, while wages have stagnated. Renting often costs as much or more than a mortgage, leaving little room for saving. Boomers frequently blame Gen Z's spending habits, citing luxuries like DoorDash or going out too much. This narrative ignores the structural issues driving the housing crisis, from investor-driven markets to a lack of affordable housing. Boomers grew up in a time when life was just built different. Jobs were easier to get, college wasn't a wallet crusher, and houses didn't cost $1 bajillion. So, when they drop advice like, just budget better or walk in and ask for a job, it's giving outdated vibes. They're speaking from their own experience, but that doesn't hit the same in 2024. A lot of boomers are just simply put enjoying watching the chaos while they consume every possible resource they can. They've got pensions, social security, and homes they bought when prices weren't wild. Meanwhile, Gen Z is out here trying to afford rent and ramen at the same time. Boomers don't feel the struggles because, honestly, they're not living it, and also because most of them only care about themselves. If boomers admitted that Gen Z has it way harder, they'd have to face the fact that the systems they thrived in are now broken. Instead, it's easier for them to say we're lazy or don't work hard enough than to deal with the truth. Change could be possible if boomers would even care slightly, but simply put, they seem to care more about their own issues rather every group as a whole. Boomers were taught to value stability, hard work, and traditional career paths. They see degrees, corporate jobs, and homeownership as markers of success. Gen Z, on the other hand, has been forced to adapt to a world that has done nothing but set them up to work hard, but then end up not getting anything they were promised. A job, a house, and even just finding a girlfriend in today's society is a crippling nightmare. The censorship in the media and manipulation has made certain people or groups of people more stupid, which has definitely taken a toll on why things only seem to get worse. In 2024, it's like living in an echo chamber where censorship and misinformation are running the show. People believe whatever headline shows up on their feed without questioning it, and it's making entire groups dumber by the day. This lack of critical thinking doesn't just hurt individuals. It's like throwing gasoline on the dumpster fire of problems Gen Z is already dealing with. The world keeps spiraling, and instead of fixing things, we're stuck watching everyone argue over whose side is more right while nothing actually gets done. Gen Z has essentially been thrown into a game where the rules change every time you start to figure them out. The promise of work hard, play hard turned into work hard, barely survive. A steady job? Good luck. You're either overqualified or not qualified enough. A house? Only if you're down to live in your parents' basement until you're 40. And don't even get started on dating. Between unrealistic expectations, algorithm-driven rejection, and everyone being too busy hustling to even look up from their phones, finding a decent relationship feels like trying to win the lottery. Gen Z isn't just navigating a broken system. It's like we've been handed a puzzle with half the pieces missing. The dream of stability feels like a joke when even working multiple jobs doesn't guarantee basic needs like housing or healthcare. And while previous generations were building futures, Gen Z is stuck patching holes in a sinking ship. And let's not ignore the education system. It's been hyped as the golden ticket, but for many, it's more like a golden trap. You leave with a mountain of debt and a degree that employers barely glance at. Meanwhile, the actual skills needed to thrive in today's world, like financial literacy or emotional resilience, aren't even taught. On top of all this, environmental destruction looms over everything. Gen Z inherited a planet on the verge of collapse, with leaders who talk a big game about change but rarely follow through. We're expected to save the world, but we're barely scraping by ourselves. It's hard to focus on fixing the climate when you can't afford to fix your car. All these layers of chaos make it feel like Gen Z was set up to fail from the start. And while older generations critique us for being soft, the reality is we're tougher than they think, just trying to survive a world that keeps stacking the odds against us.